Welcome to PowerBoat Television. I'm Steve Bull. This week we're out to prove that cruising is a family-friendly activity. And we have 3 generations on this vessel to prove it. We're going to head north on Lake Huron up to Tobermory. And we're starting here in Grand Bend. It's beautiful and famous for its beach, but the sunsets are the thing everyone talks about. One of the top 10 in the world, allegedly. And if you don't believe me, turn around and look for yourself. A sunset cruise here is a must, and though Lake Huron is big water, you can often luck out with calm days. It's one of those places in time that instantly feels like vacation. We opted to stay out for dinner, enjoying a view that reminded me of the Gulf of Mexico. Grand Bend itself is worth a stay for a few days. The mayor even met us on the dock to tell us why this is such a popular spot for tourists and boaters.
We have just completed a stage on the main beach, community Rotary stage. There's free concerts on Sunday nights, and different times through the week there'll be a pop-up concert, and it's all free on the beach, paid for by community youths and partners. So come on down, check it out.
The beach is one of the best around. Wide and sandy, a shallow entry into the water, and staffed with lifeguards during daylight hours. There's also a splash pad for the little ones and a playground. Downtown Grand Bend is classic beach town and worth a wander. Flip-flops and fedoras, bikinis and board shorts are as welcome here as pants and jackets.
We'd love to see anybody come to Lambton Shores. It's a short season, but it's a great place to come and visit.
And if you come by boat, it's not a bad idea to call ahead and reserve a spot at the marina, as in peak season it's popular and there's limited space with just 30 transient slips, with 30 or 50 amp service that can handle up to 70-foot vessels. And of the transients, most come from the United States since it's so close to Michigan and Ohio. A local legend around here is the harbor master, Bob Roney, known simply to many as Harbor Bob. He's been here more than 20 years and knows the town, the marina, the river, and the people better than most, and he offered to take us out on a bit of a tour. He told me that 90% of visitors are powerboaters, and in recent years, parasailing and PWC rentals have grown to be very popular. Of course, waterfront dining has always been a hit. And a benefit of being with Harbor Bob is like you have an all-access pass, and we were soon invited in by some of the locals, who may have the coolest boathouse that no longer holds boats. They printed out old photos of the area, and they used this as a coffee table. But as great as the hospitality, the sunsets, and the beaches in Grand Bend, we've got a long way to go, so it was an early start to get ahead of the wind when we said goodbye to our neighbors and headed back out into Lake Huron. All this while the 3rd generation on board, my son Wilson, made sure he was fueled up for the 130-mile run north to Tobermory. Welcome back to Lake Huron, where the wind and waves have decided to join our voyage. One of the benefits of sharing boating with your family is actually sharing the boating, especially on long trips. And after a few hours at the helm, I traded off to my wife Jay for a few hours. Then, as we plowed northward through a following sea, she traded off to her dad Brian while I took over as navigator and first watch, though the autopilot did do most of the steering at this point. When we got out into the open water, about 40 miles from the nearest land, the waves started coming from a few different directions, meaning our smooth following sea was more of a rocky roller. And while Grandma, who's a lifelong boater, was fine doing dishes down below, the rest of us rode it out up top. By early afternoon, though, we had rounded Cape Hurd and slid south of Russell Island, off the tip of the Bruce Peninsula. The winds up here are notoriously unpredictable, and today was no exception. So we cruised into Big Tub past the resort and small marina and dropped anchor to have a sheltered lunch and a welcome reprieve from the waves. This is a popular anchorage, but we opted for the comforts of being right in town and moored just around the point in Little Tub Harbor that Tobermory surrounds. Harbor staff will guide you in and help you tie up, as they need to squeeze as many people in here as possible.
There's roughly 100 slips, but about half is seasonal, and we have commercial as well. We can get about 50 boats in here transient if we tie them all together. It used to be a stop for fuel and supplies, but now it's become a destination because there's so many things to do. The grotto is a big draw for people, the park itself. And we have golf, we have hiking. A lot of them come here because their kids have a lot to do as well. The shopping's great, the restaurants are perfect. There's not a restaurant you walk into that's not good. They're all very different.
Tobermory is situated at the northern tip of the Bruce Peninsula, sticking way out into the water and helping divide Georgian Bay from Lake Huron. And though quite remote compared to other Great Lakes harbors, it's still popular with land-based travelers, thanks in large part to the glass-bottom boats that take riders to check out shipwrecks or to the uniquely beautiful Flower Pot Island. It's also a popular fishing spot. And inspired by our charter brethren, we headed out to try our luck in the crystal clear waters. The beauty of fishing by boat, even a small tender like we're on, is that it's an excuse to explore the area in a different way. Depending on the waves, Big Tub can always be a very sheltered and fun place to putz away a few hours. Historically though, fishing wasn't just a hobby.
It originally started out being more of a timber and fishing village back in the 1900s. My family did fishing.
Perry Smith is a local, and his business, G&S Water Sports, opened in 1965 and was incorporated in '68.
So it was a quaint little town, fishing village, and then some of the older fishermen decided people wanted to see this Flower Pot Island. So they would charge them a couple bucks to go in on a boat to see Flower Pot. And then they found out that there were shipwrecks here, and it just evolved from there to today.
With 24 shipwrecks at various depths and clear water, scuba diving and snorkeling is a must-do. And thanks to the Discover Scuba program at G&S, newbies can give it a go. It's about 3 hours and can be an easy family add-on to your trip, as you're outfitted in full gear and taught the basics. The best part is, you don't do it in a pool like most other destinations. You actually do it in the crystal clear waters and swim over a real shipwreck. This is an experience that I cannot recommend enough. And with the bonus of not having to be experienced or having to haul gear around, it's a perfect adventure for boating stopovers. With an eclectic mix of boats, from big sailboats to powerboats of all sizes, from cruisers to those who use the well-maintained ramp, Tobermory is boating heaven and worth a visit, either as the destination or a stopover to or from the North Channel. So that concludes the cruise up Lake Huron. It was a great time, and the little guy did well even in that rougher water out in the middle of the lake. And even though we're on a big boat, there is some learning curves with having a baby on board, but don't let that deter you. Cruising is a family-friendly activity. When you have Grand Bend and Tobermory as your destinations, you can't go wrong. So from my family to yours, we're gonna get back to lunch, and we'll see you next week.